North Carolina's tournament resume is in desperate need of some help, and tonight's one of the last opportunities to get some. It's do or die time.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Tuesday, December 17th, 2024. Welcome into this live edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's great to be together today. Thanks so much for making it your first listen or watch. I want to send a special shout out to the everydayers who are joining us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord community, and our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers place a $5 bet, and if you win, you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Oh, man, you guys, I have been on a little quick Christmas getaway with my family. A great time. We went to Disney World. We've never been. It was incredible, phenomenal. The crowds actually weren't bad. What do you know? And now I'm ready to dive back in, get things going here ahead of Christmas week. Glad to be with you all. Carolina, obviously, out of the AP Top 25 right now. The women in yesterday's new poll fall to 19th after that loss to Georgia Tech over the weekend. And where we are at, coming up on the show today is it's do or die week for Carolina. Last two big non-con opportunities. We'll talk about that. We'll have our Four Corners preview of tonight's Florida game and the Jumpman Invitational. And I'll help you get to know Florida a little bit and what you can expect from the Gators. So it is Tuesday, though, and that means it's Trivia Tuesday. By the way, on my end of things, for those watching in real time on YouTube, it looks like my internet is showing that it's a bit slow. Is anybody else am I pixelated, or are things looking good on your end? Let me know. And as we go here now, I'll keep an eye on the comments there. So Tuesday trivia, here we go. Carolina, one of the last times they played Florida, not the most recent, but the time before that, was Carolina's unexpected run to the 2000 Final Four, where you might remember Carolina unfortunately lost to Florida. I don't want to dwell on that, but the Tuesday trivia question is, who were the four teams that the Tar Heels beat leading up to that Final Four game, and where did all of these happen? That's kind of a fun show, trivia question, right? Okay, answer for that coming up at the end of the show. Stay tuned in. Let's see what you guys said. Everyone says looks good. Garrett says a little bit pixelated, so hopefully it'll even out as we go. Thank you, Marion, as well. All right, so here we go. Do or die time. Outside of the Dayton win, which looks better and better and better by the day. Oh, by the way, thank you, Dayton, very much. Carolina, outside of that game, has dropped every notable non-con opportunity they've had so far this season, and now they've only got two left. They lost at Kansas. They obviously lost to Auburn in Maui. They lost to Michigan State in Maui. That's the one that's like, Carolina needed that one. And then lost to Alabama, obviously, at home. Would have liked all of those, but it's the Michigan State one that really grates at me just because of how good Kansas, Auburn, and Alabama are. Needed that Michigan State game. So all that's left of notable non-con games, I guess I should say, are Florida tonight in the Jumpman Invitational, UCLA Saturday in the CBS Sports Classic at Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena, and then literally the only other non-con game remaining is Campbell, and Carolina plays them on Sunday, December 29th. And that game is of no note. Like, it doesn't do anything for you. You just simply can't lose it. And then after that, it's ACC play the rest of the way, the final 19 games of the regular season, starting with Louisville, by the way, on New Year's Day. How fun is that? A New Year's game. Looking forward to that. So yes, Dayton has climbed way up. They're also very comfortably a quad one game, by the way, right now. So that's good to be aware of as well. So that means, though, with that being all that's left, if you haven't paid attention, Florida is legit. It seems like. I'll tell you why I'm saying that here in just a second. Right now, the Gators are 7th in the nation. They're 10-0. There are only 5 remaining undefeated teams in the nation. I should have trivia timed everybody with that. Let's pull it up. Who are the 5 remaining undefeated teams? See if you can get them. I'll just tell you that 3 of the 5 are SEC schools. How crazy is that? The others, I'm going to tell you right now, 3, 2, 1. Tennessee, Oklahoma, remember SEC school Oklahoma, Utah State, and Drake. So that's it. Just those 5 are undefeated nationally. That's all we've got remaining. So, Florida, 10-0. They have an elite offense. They're 7th right now at KenPom in offensive efficiency. They're scoring 86.2 points a game, which is 17th in the nation. Now, you're probably aware that Carolina is right there offensively. Carolina is actually averaging more points a game, 86.8. That's 14th nationally in terms of like straight up points per game. However, Carolina's offense is not acting as efficiently as is Florida's. It's different, right? Because Carolina gets more possessions. They play a little faster than Florida. So they're slightly scoring more points, but they're not quite as efficient, 21st in the nation. Still up there, though. But the difference really comes when we get to the defensive side. Florida, their defense is right there, 22nd in the nation at KenPom, allowing just 65.1 points a game. That's 46th in the nation. That's the big difference. Carolina's defensive efficiency is pretty good. Not as good as Florida's. They're 40th compared to Florida at 22nd. But Carolina is allowing 78.7 points a game. That's 334th in the nation. You guys, that's like bottom 50. That's really bad. Florida is also rebounding like crazy. They're 7th in the nation in total rebounds a game, 43.4. They're blocking 5.5 shots a game. That's 14th in the nation. They're doing a lot of things really well. That said, here's something I want you to be aware of. They've only beaten 2 teams in the KenPom Top 100. They won at Florida State 87-74, and they just on Saturday beat Arizona State on a neutral 83-66. So what I'm wondering is this something of a bloated schedule for Florida? I do not want to doubt them. Like eyeball test to me, Florida looks really, really good. But it's hard to take too much away from their schedule right now. Literally, their only other notable non-con wins are Wake Forest, Wichita State, and Virginia. But they're all outside the top 100 at KenPom. I mean, barely, but they are. And like by far, Carolina is the best team that Florida is going to play in the non-con. Literally, Carolina right now, this is going to be their 6th quad 1 game. Now, granted, they've only won 1 of them. That was Dayton. The other, thankfully, all 4 losses are quad 1 losses, but they are quad 1 losses, or they are losses. Florida, this is just their 2nd quad 1 game this whole season. Literally, their only other quad 1 game they've played was beating Arizona State Saturday, and that game is just barely quad 1. Quad 1 on a neutral site, which is where they played Arizona State, is 1 through 50. Arizona State right now is 49th in the net. So that just barely qualifies as quad 1. So that said, again, my eyeball test says Florida's really good. Their schedule, they've won every game they played, and that's massive. That's important. But how good are they? I don't think we know yet. But we're going to find out tonight. And I think we're going to find out more about Carolina as well. Reminder, by the way, I said Oklahoma's undefeated right now, one of the final 5 teams. Jumpman Invitational, Carolina, Oklahoma last year. Remember, Oklahoma was undefeated coming into that game. Carolina beat them. It was kind of the beginning of the end for Oklahoma, who just like dove off a cliff the rest of the season, and things were not as good. So I don't know. What do we make of that? Is that what Florida is, or is Florida as legit as it seems they are? I don't expect the Oklahoma decline of last year, but it is notable to look at Florida's schedule that we've seen so far and just say Carolina is more battle tested. Carolina is more ready. The question, as you and I very well know right now, is will the Tar Heels be able to put it together and get things figured out? You're right. Does that make sense? That's how I'm feeling. It's like, all right, another opportunity to prove that Carolina can actually get off to a hot start, can actually not just catch up from a deficit really well, that they can play from ahead. Are they going to take advantage of that? That's where we're going to go next as we carry on today's show. We'll talk about that right after I tell you that college football playoff games are going to be on TNT. It's that time of year. The college football playoff is back, and with the newly expanded 12-team format, which is crazy, it's coming up this weekend. It's guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT sports coverage of the CFP begins December 21st. That's like 4 days from now, starting with the college football playoff kickoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into the first matchup, which is going to be SMU Mustangs against Penn State Nittany Lions right at noon Eastern, followed by Clemson looking to upset Texas Longhorns in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the college football playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. Okay, it's time for the Four Corners preview. I love getting into this. This is our our every game tribute to Coach Dean Smith and all his great legacy. So, guys, number one, I said I just got back from Disney World. Tale as old as time, right? Like that's what we're looking at right here. Can Carolina get off to a first half fast start? Nothing has told me that they will, but we're going to continue talking about it until they finally do it. Carolina has fallen behind by at least 8 points to every high major opponent they've played and Dayton. So the 4 losses, Kansas, Michigan State, Auburn, Alabama, they were down by double digits to all of those. Dayton, they were down by double digits. Georgia Tech is the lone high major opponent. They weren't down double digits, but they were down by 8 in the first half against Georgia Tech. So now that's my cutoff point. Carolina has been down by at least 8 to every high major and Dayton. At some point, the Tar Heels have to figure out how to start a game well. I thought they would against Alabama. I really thought they would because it's home. This big-time opponent, the energy, thinking back to Tennessee in that same environment last year, no. They couldn't do it. Can they take advantage now? I know Florida is an East Coast team just like Carolina, but this game's in Charlotte. Man, make it feel like a home game. Let's get out and get going. Start guns blazing. And, we've seen the same starting lineup for 2 games now, both Georgia Tech and LaSalle, where we had Elliott, RJ, and Seth, as they've done. I call that 3G. If you hear me refer to 3G, I just mean those 3 guys. Plus now Drake Powell, who has started for the last 3 games, and then Van Allen Lubin, who has now started for the last 2 games. I think, third time's a charm with that. Will we see that as a cemented starting lineup? That they got to get it up and going quick. Does Coach Davis feel good with that lineup, or will we see another adjustment? I think that's part of if they can't get up and going fast, I think they're going to keep tinkering till they find something. So watch out for that. Number 2 in our 4 corners preview is this. Individual defense is going to be critical in this game. Yes, team defense always is critical. But Florida has a stable of guards that are long and athletic, proven at a high level. And I mean, they're going to cause trouble for Carolina offensively. Let's just note that first. But also, it is highly critical for Carolina to be able to stay in front of these guys. And not just the guards, everyone. Because we'll talk in just a little bit about Florida's length. I mean, it's wild. But they're going to spread out Carolina. They're going to make them guard individually because to this point in the season, Carolina has not shown the ability to do that consistently. Can they? Drake Powell is probably going to be guarding someone like 6'11" tonight. Just be aware of that ahead of time. Like that's what we're watching for. So Carolina, from a defensive standpoint, has to lock in individually to help each other. Because if I get beat, I don't have John Henson behind me to erase it. I don't have, whoever you want to come up with back there to take care of business. So individual defense is going to be critically important. Watch how Carolina defends. Number 3, speaking of defense, a very specific part of it. I said Florida is highly elite in terms of total rebounds per game. The inflection point for that for me for this game, and what I want to call it is, I tweeted this out just a little bit ago. I'm going to call it my something's got to give stat of the game. Here's why. Florida hits the offensive glass really, really hard. They are 10th nationally in offensive rebound percentage, 40.2%. That's insane, meaning they're basically getting 2 out of every 5 of their missed shots. Yikes. And in total, they are 14th nationally in offensive rebounds per game, getting 14.6 offensive rebounds per game. Here's what's interesting. North Carolina is also 14th in the nation in defensive rebounds per game at 29.2. So Florida wants to hit the offensive glass. Carolina does a great job defending the defensive glass. What does that mean in total? It means something's got to give, strength on strength. Who's going to win out? Carolina has to want it more. They have to find a man and box out. They have to do the work, and everyone has to rebound. It can't just, as we've seen, gang rebounding is the MO, the modus operandi of this team, and that's what it's got to be. Elliott's got to be in there. RJ's got to be in there. Seth's got to be in there. Everyone has to help out on the glass. If that doesn't happen, Florida's going to have offensive rebound after offensive rebound, and then you're cooked. So my question with this is, will Carolina be able to finish defensive possessions with the rebound, or are the Gators going to have a second chance points field day in this game tonight? And if so, Carolina's in a world of hurt. So have to finish defensive possessions with a rebound. I get sometimes you're just not going to be able to with as many threes that are shot in today's game. It is just going to happen sometimes, these longer caroms, but you got to do as best as you possibly can. Fourth and finally in our Four Corners preview is this. Kade Tyson. This poor guy. What a season, right? We are so hopeful all off season. I was like, man, Carolina has this dude. He's going to pair with RJ, and it's going to be a great compliment. He's going to light the world on fire, shoot threes, scores inside the paint as well, actually takes more attempts from inside the paint. Carolina got a guy, and it's going to be great. And for the majority of this season, unfortunately, not only has it not been, but he's looked a bit out of place. I hate to say that, but it has. Then comes Saturday and LaSalle. One of those opportunities that you have to kind of just reset against, due respect to LaSalle, against an inferior opponent and just kind of do what you need to do. Cade in that game finishes with game high, not just Carolina high, game high 23 points, 9 of 14 shooting, 5 of 10 from 3. And so the question is, and the fourth thing to watch out for tonight, was that a beginning of a sign of a breakout? Was that the beginning of a sign of, hey, we're almost to ACC play and Cade's getting comfortable? Or is it just a one-off because it's LaSalle? Will we see more of the same of what we've seen as Carolina plays Florida tonight and UCLA on Saturday, and then maybe Cade has another big game against Campbell here in a couple weeks? It's hard to know. But in order for these Tar Heels to reach the ceiling, whatever that ceiling is, I feel like it's a floating target right now. But in order for them to reach whatever that ceiling is, Kade Tyson has to be part of this team. He's got to be part of this rotation. If he can make the shots, if he can be consistent, it's gonna be big. It's gonna be important. But if not, it's going to continue to be a struggle. It'll put more stress, more strain, more defensive attention on 3G, and that's not good for Carolina. So there you go, folks. The Four Corners preview. 4 things specifically I'm watching for in this game. The first half start, individual defense, finishing defensive possessions with a rebound, and Kade Tyson. A one-off on Saturday or a sign of things to come? Hopefully a sign of things to come. Well, we do need to get to know these Florida Gators a little bit better, get to know what makes them tick. Who are they? Who are the names you're watching for tonight? All that coming up here in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook because right now, new customers can bet $5, and if you win, you get $150 back in bonus bets. The FanDuel Sportsbook app, it gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. I love it. It's like one-stop shopping. It's great stuff. So maybe you've placed a hunch, but then you've placed a bet and then you like get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out live stats, view play-by-play in real time, so much more right there on that same page where you placed your bets. Unfortunately, Florida favored in this game by 3.5 at FanDuel. Carolina, man, they got to not just get within that and cover. They got to win this outright, right? And if you believe in that, go check it out at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. This episode is also brought to you by our friends at Prize Picks. Man, I love Prize Picks. It's just a cool idea and enterprise, and you can make your holidays bigger and better with Prize Picks, which is the place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to, you ready for this, 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks, and do so with peace of mind because withdrawals are fast, they're safe, and they're secure, and they're available in as quick as 15 minutes. Join now, because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away two free picks in December. And they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. I love it, man. How about some Prize Picks lines for tonight for Carolina? RJ Davis, there's 2 of them on there right now. You can get, basically with Prize Picks, remember, you just pick more or less than the given stat. So straight up points for RJ, 17.5. More or less, I'm going more. Whether efficient or inefficient, I think RJ is going to have a game where he gets up over 17.5. The other one is combined points, rebounds, and assists. They're giving it at 26.5. That one I'm going less on. I think Florida's length curtails some of RJ's rebounds and assists, but he gets there with the points. So more on points, less on the combo platter. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, when you download the app and use code LOCKEDONCollege, you'll get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. All right, folks, let's get to know Florida a little bit. Let me see if there's any interesting questions or comments we want to get to as we talk about Florida as well. I'm going to keep that pulled up. If you've got any questions or comments you want to get in, go ahead and drop those now while we're talking, and I'll see if we got a couple minutes here at the very end. All right, game details. Let me remind you of all of it. Carolina, Florida, tonight, December 17th, Jumpman Invitational in the Spectrum Center. This is the 3rd edition of it. Remember, it's all teams sponsored by Jumpman. So Carolina, Florida, Oklahoma, and Michigan. Carolina is 2-0 in this event. Beat Michigan 2 years ago and then beat Oklahoma, as we talked about earlier in last year's event. Carolina, thankfully, plays early game tonight, 7 Eastern. It's on ESPN, so you don't have to wait around for the tip of the or the previous game to finish. Just get to Carolina tips it off. That's great. We just said in the last break that FanDuel has it Florida -3.5. At Ken Palm, this game is Florida -2. So a small line could go either way. Schedule bloat for the Gators? I don't know. We're still talking about it. So series record, Carolina leads all time 4-2. I would have guessed that Carolina and Florida had played more than 6 times ever. But that's it. Just 4-2. Carolina winning the most recent matchup in Battle for Atlantis back 2015. Somebody check me on that. But I referenced the loss in the 2000 Final Four. That was the time before that. So we've only played 2 times in the 2000s. Florida is coached by Todd Golden. This is his 3rd year. You might have seen a couple weeks ago, there's some accusations that have been made against Coach Golden. Nothing's really happened with that publicly. It's just one of those like, hey, he's going to keep coaching while we're investigating behind the scenes. Kind of an awkward situation, but we'll see what happens there. Florida right now 7th in the AP poll. They're 5th in the net. This is a very Q1 game, and so that's good. As we said, Carolina's 6th Q1 opportunity. Florida just their 2nd. Players to watch. Walter Clayton Jr., leading scorer, getting buckets, man. He's been there for a minute now at Florida, but he leads their team. I had just clicked away from it. 19.1 points per game, followed by Elijah Martin. He's a transfer from FAU. He left when Dusty May left to go up to Michigan, and basically all of that core that made it to the Final Four just all went their separate ways, other than Vlad Golden, their big man, who actually went to Michigan with Dusty May. Then Alex Condon and Will Richard both averaging 12-ish points a game. That's those guys are all starters, those 4. And then the 5th starter doesn't really play starters' minutes. That's Ruben Chinyelu, who's 6'11". He just plays about 18 a game, but Florida has had consistency. The same 5 guys have started all 10 games. But one of the things to know about Florida is they are long. That backcourt, not too much bigger than Carolina. Walter Clayton and Elijah Martin are both 6'2", so that should be all right for Elliott and RJ. But after that, Will Richard is 6'5", so Seth will probably have him unless Carolina wants to put him on Walter Clayton, which I think might be a wise defensive assignment because Walter Clayton is just so good. Although, as I say that, Elijah Martin is an uber athlete like Seth, so that might be the play as well. Actually, now that I'm talking about that, I'm really curious to see how Carolina, what defensive assignments they have tonight. Watch for that. 5 corners preview, right? But then outside of that, Florida's other 2 starters are both 6'11". You've got Ruben Chinyelu, who I mentioned, along with Alex Condon, both 6'11" dudes. I think it'll be Vin Allen Lubin on Chinyelu because he's more of the big bruiser kind of guy, while Alex Condon is more somebody that I'm guessing Drake Powell will be hanging out with. So keep your eyes on all those defensive assignments. But Florida goes big outside of that. Their other 3 rotation guys are 6'5", 6'9", 6'9". So not much breathing room for Carolina tonight. Going to have to be ready to go. That's why I'm talking about those individual defensive assignments are going to be so critical for the Tar Heels. The other guy that everybody always wants to know about with Florida is Olivier Rioux, who is 7'9". Yes, 7'9". He's a bus guy though. Like getting off the bus, he looks intimidating. Literally doesn't play. I feel like he's either hurt or redshirting or something, but like doesn't play. What's cool though is he is the Guinness World Record holder for tallest teenager at multiple points. He was 6'1" when he was 8. That's insane. 6'11" by 6th grade. Yes, 6'11" in 6th grade. And he crossed the 7-foot mark the summer before he entered 7th. Absolutely crazy stuff. So I see there are a couple questions coming in. I want to grab 1 or 2 of those, but I need to give you the Trivia Tuesday answer. The 2000 unexpected Final Four run. Who were the 4 teams Carolina played and beat along the way to losing to Florida? Anybody remember? Carolina was an 8 seed, so they started by beating Missouri 84-70. And then if you're an 8 or 9, if you want to keep trucking, you got to knock off a number 1. So in round 2, Carolina beat Stanford. That was 60-53. Both of those games took place in Birmingham. On to the Sweet 16, Carolina played number 4 Tennessee, beat them 74-69. And then in the Elite 8, got a bit of a reprieve, getting to play Tulsa, who was the 7 seed, beat them just by 4 points, though. Both those games were in Austin. And then Carolina played Florida in Indianapolis. So there you go, that little reminder of that. Okay, here's a big one from Hayden Steelman that I wanted to catch. Part of Carolina's struggles in the first half have been when they cannot hang on to the ball. Thankfully, one of the great things from Saturday's game against LaSalle, and as I say that, I realize I'm saying LaSalle, is that Elliott finished with 7 assists and just 1 turnover. Did have, if I remember correctly, look, I'm trying to keep up with this game as I'm walking around the Magic Kingdom. So I don't have my usual thorough knowledge of stats in my head right now. But I think if I remember correctly, Elliott had another first half offensive foul. Got to stay away from those, right? Like that's critical. And so we're part of Carolina doing well in the first half, getting off and running and being in a great shape is limiting not only first half turnovers, just turnovers for the game, but yes, including the first half. So got to be ready for all of this as we get going. So tonight we will be live after the game. Man, just love the energy of those live postcasts. I have my son's Christmas musical, like his school Christmas show tonight. He's got a speaking part. Yeah, Paxton, way to go. And so looking forward to that. But of course, the school scheduled it like basically at halftime of this game. I live in Central Time, so it's like 7 my time. Anyway, I will get back and be ready to go live as quickly as I possibly can so that you're not sitting around waiting on me. All right. But I'll go ahead and have the YouTube ready for it. So if you want to hop in and drop comments as things are going, please feel free. And then I'll get in as quickly as I can. I'll update everyone on Twitter and Blue Sky when we're going to go live. All right. Great. Thank you all so much for tuning in with me here on a Tuesday morning. Hopefully you were able to avoid some work and just, it's like the holidays. It's like work doesn't matter right now, right? Yeah, absolutely. So good stuff there. All right, guys. If you haven't subscribed to the show here on YouTube, please do so. It's a great way to make sure you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. Same on audio if you prefer to listen. Make sure you've subscribed on your favorite audio platform as well. If you're not a Locked On Tar Heels Discord member, man, we'd love to have you there. We're talking Tar Heels on Discord all the time. It's free to join. The links in the show notes. If you want to go even deeper, Locked On Tar Heels insiders, you can directly message me one-on-one, and you have access to all my stats and charts, data, other perks as well. You guys know the deal. It's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. Can't wait to talk again tonight after the game. But until then, peace.